Okay. In this session, we are starting with the development of GIT, that is your alimentary canal. Okay. The digestive tract, also known as gastrointestinal tract, develops from the primitive gut that is derived from the dorsal part of your endodermal yolk sac, and the development of primitive gut forms during the 4th week of intrauterine life by the incorporation of a large portion of the yolk sac into the embryonic disc during the cranio-caudal and lateral folding of the embryo. So first we will see how the formation of primitive gut takes place and how the cranio-caudal and lateral foldings of the embryo will also take place. Any idea about the folding of embryo? In which week it will start? 4th week. Okay. How the foldings will take place? Your GIT means the development from your mouth to anal canal. Okay. To know about the structures, how they will develop, first we have to be aware of the formation or the development of primitive gut and also the foldings of the embryo. We have two types of foldings. The first one is cranio-caudal and the second one is lateral foldings. Okay. In this session, we are discussing only about the cranio-caudal one. In the next session, we are going to deal with the lateral foldings. Okay. We all know our embryo is in sphere or spherical shape. We are seeing two types of section. One is coronal section and another one is sagittal section. How we take the coronal section? If this is the sphere, how we are going to take a coronal section? Like this, this or this? How? Okay. What about the sagittal section? Like this. In the midline. Like how? Like the lengthwise or the widthwise? Lengthwise. Okay, that's right. So imagine we have a sphere, that is your embryo, and we are taking the coronal section like this. Okay, this is the coronal section and we are weaving that cut piece from the anterior direction. So your embryo will look like this. This is your amniotic cavity and this is yolk sac. Okay. Other than this, what we can see in embryo? What are the other important structures? Mesoderm and ectoderm and endoderm. Where we can see the ectoderm? Here. In this part, we can see the ectoderm. Okay. And here we can see endoderm. In between these two, we have intra-embryonic mesoderm. Okay. Intra-embryonic mesoderm. What are the important structure we see in mesoderm? Neural tube and notochord. Your neural tube will present above here and notochord is present here. Okay. This is neural tube and this is notochord. On either side of your neural tube, we have neural crust cells. Neural crust cells. Okay, and this entire structure is covered by extra embryonic mesoderm. Okay, this is the coronal section of your embryo. We have amniotic cavity, yolk sac, and also we can see ectoderm, endoderm and intra-embryonic mesoderm. In the intra-embryonic mesoderm, we have two important structures, notochord and neural tube. On either side of the neural tube, we have the important cell structure, that is neural crust cell. And the entire structure is covered by extra-embryonic mesoderm. Is it clear for everyone? Okay. Next we have sagittal section. Okay, this is the sagittal section of your embryo. We have amniotic cavity, yolk sac, ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. In the mesoderm, here also we have notochord and neural tube, but it is not very clear or distinctly observed in the coronal section, in the sagittal section. Okay, is it clear? In this area, we have three important structure. This part is called cranial end, also known as head, and this side we call it as caudal end, also known as toe. Okay, on the cranial end and caudal end we have three important structure on both the side. The first important structure is sulcus, transversus. Where we can see the sulcus transversus? Which part of the body it will give rise to, or which part is developed from sulcus transversus? Diaphragm. Your diaphragm is developed from the sulcus transversus. Next we have pericardial region. Okay, in this region we can see the development of your heart, followed by buccopharyngeal membrane. Okay, these are the three important structures we see on the cranial side. The first one is sulcus transversus, which give rise, or from this the diaphragm will develop, and the second one is pericardial cavity, where we can see the development of your heart. The next important point is buccopharyngeal membrane. What is the another name for buccopharyngeal membrane? What is the another name for buccopharyngeal membrane? Okay, find out. On the other hand, in the cranial end or caudal end also we have three important structure. Okay, the first one is cloacal membrane. Okay, and the another one important structure is allantois, and here we have connecting stalk. This is connecting stalk. Okay, on the caudal end we have cloacal membrane, allantois and connecting stalk. Remember, your buccopharyngeal membrane and cloacal membrane is present in the area where the mesoderm is absent, and your ectoderm and endoderm is meeting at this point. Okay, there is an absence of mesoderm and the ectoderm and endoderm are meeting at this point. That area is called buccopharyngeal membrane on the cranial side and cloacal membrane on the caudal side. Okay, allantois is the extension from your yolk sac. In between these two structures we have connecting stalk. Okay, is it clear? Is it clear for everyone? Okay. From this, the rotation of your embryo takes place. What is the reason behind rotation of the embryo? I mean the folding of the embryo, proliferation of cells. Okay, any other answer? Your amniotic cavity will increase in the size. That makes the embryo to go under a process of folding. Okay, you can say like this. Now this is your this whole area is your amniotic cavity. It is getting increased in the size. Once the amniotic cavity start increasing, the folding of your embryo takes place. Generally, this part will go like this and this part will go like this. Okay? Is it clear? Any doubts in this? No doubts? Okay. Now this is your amniotic cavity, okay, and this is yolk sac. Your amniotic cavity will get increased in the side and started folding in this direction. Okay, your yolk sac will get incorporated into this area. This is yolk sac. Now the structure which we seen on the cranial and caudal end will be present like this. This is third, this is second, and this is first. Same here also. Third, second, and first. Okay. The very first structure is your sulcus transversus. Next followed by pericardial region. Next we have buccopharyngeal membrane. Okay. So this is how the order takes place. From this your mouth part will going to develop. Next we have heart followed by diaphragm. Got it? Everyone? On the other hand, in the yolk sac, this is allantois, which is the extension of your yolk sac, and in this particular folding we can see two extension. This is the another one extension. Okay, what is the name of this extension? Vitalo-intestinal duct. Okay. After the folding starts, your yolk sac will show two extension. The one which is already present, that is allantois, and the another one extension is called vitalo-intestinal duct. Okay. Now this area of the yolk sac is called as primitive gut. Got it? This is how the formation of your primitive gut takes place. See the first point, the digestive tract develops from the primitive gut, that is derived from the dorsal part of the endodermal yolk sac. That point I have explained here. This is how exactly the primitive gut will develop. Okay. Once the primitive gut develops, we are going to divide it into three parts. What are those parts? What are the parts of primitive gut? Foregut, midgut, and hindgut. Okay. The one which is the area which is present closer to your cranial end is called foregut, and the area which is closer to your caudal end or toe region is called hindgut, and the area present between your foregut and hindgut is called midgut. Is it clear for everyone? You can say your yolk sac is present like this. Okay. This is primitive gut. Primitive gut. Now this is foregut, midgut, and hindgut. To your hindgut region, your allantois is open, and for your midgut region, the vitalo-intestinal duct is opened. Is it clear? Any doubts in this? We have seen the formation of primitive gut, and that primitive gut have three regions or three parts: foregut, midgut, and hindgut. The area which is closer to your head region is foregut. The area which is closer to your toe region is hindgut. Between them we have midgut. Allantois will open into your hindgut, and vitalo-intestinal duct is opening into your midgut. Is it clear, everyone? Any doubts? No doubts? Okay. On this region, we have dorsal aorta. This is dorsal aorta. Okay, remember this point, we have dorsal aorta. Okay, the primitive gut forms during the 4th week of intrauterine life by the incorporation of a large portion of the yolk sac into the embryonic disc during the cranio-caudal and lateral folding of embryo. What I have explained here is cranio-caudal foldings, also known as head folding and toe folding. Okay, the tubular primitive gut extends in the median plane from buccopharyngeal membrane at its cranial end to cloacal membrane at its caudal end. It freely communicates with the remaining yolk sac by a structure called vitalo-intestinal duct. The part of gut cranial to this communication is called foregut, part caudal to this communication is called hindgut, and the part intervening between foregut and hindgut is called midgut. The cranial end of foregut is separated from the stomachium by buccopharyngeal membrane, while caudal end of hindgut is separated from the proctodium by cloacal membrane. At a later stage of development, the buccopharyngeal and cloacal membrane will disappear and the foregut and hindgut are in communication with the stomachium and proctodium respectively. Thus, the gut communicates with the exterior. As the development takes place, your cloacal membrane and buccopharyngeal membrane will disappear. So, the structure will communicate, that means the gut will communicate with the exterior parts. Okay. The communication between the foregut and midgut is called anterior intestinal portal, which is represented in the adult by the termination of bile duct in the second part of duodenum, and the communication between the midgut and hindgut is called posterior intestinal portal, which corresponds in the adult to the junction of right 2/3 with the left 1/3 of transverse colon. Here you can. This communication point is called anterior intestinal portal in the development stage. Later in adults, it is going to develop as the second part of the duodenum. And this communication area, which is present between your midgut and hindgut, is called posterior intestinal portal. Later in the adults, it is going to develop as the junction between right 2/3 and left 1/3 of the transverse colon. Remember this point, okay? Here we have primitive gut, amniotic cavity and yolk sac. This is the vitalo-intestinal duct which is opening into your midgut and allantois is opening into your hindgut. Okay. Around the vitalo-intestinal tract, vitalo-intestinal duct and allantois, we can see the umbilical opening. That means your umbilical cord is present here. Okay, so what are the contents of umbilical cord now? What are the contents of umbilical cord? I said this is your vitalo-intestinal duct and this is your allantois. Here the opening of your umbilical cord will take place. So what are the contents? Vitalo-intestinal duct, allantois and 2 umbilical artery and 1 umbilical vein. Remember this, there are 2 umbilical arteries and 1 umbilical vein. These are the contents of your umbilical cord. And the 1 umbilical vein present is the left side of the umbilical vein. If you remember what we have discussed in the fetal circulation, I said the purified blood from the placenta reaches to your developing heart through a left umbilical vein. So we have only 1 umbilical vein, that is the left side umbilical vein. Is it clear for everyone? Any doubts? Okay. Next we have the derivatives of foregut, midgut and hindgut. This is the duct area. Here I have written it in a folded form like this. If I write it in a straight line, this is how your duct area will look. So this is your foregut, this area is your midgut and this is your hindgut. Okay, this is the anterior side and this is the posterior side. I have already mentioned here, we have seen the dorsal aorta in this region. So this is your dorsal aorta. Branches from the dorsal aorta will supply to your duct region. Okay. So the celiac trunk will supply to your foregut region, superior mesenteric artery will supply to your midgut region and inferior mesenteric artery will supply to your hindgut region, and this structure or this blood supply is present on the posterior side. Remember this point, okay? On the other hand, they even say the points like this. The area which is supplied by celiac trunk is called foregut, and the area which is supplied by superior mesenteric artery is called midgut, and the area which is supplied by inferior mesenteric artery is called hindgut. You can explain it in both the ways. In the folding form, you can say area which is present closer to your head region is foregut. On the other hand, you can also explain the area which is supplied by celiac trunk is called foregut. Both are also acceptable. Okay. So from this foregut, midgut and hindgut, all your gastrointestinal, I mean the whole gastrointestinal tract will going to develop. Okay. See. Floor of the mouth, tongue, pharynx, derivatives of pharyngeal pouches, thyroid, esophagus, respiratory system, stomach and upper half of the duodenum is going to develop from the foregut. Liver, pancreas, extrahepatic biliary system, lower half of the duodenum, jejunum, ileum, cecum, appendix, ascending colon, and right 2/3 of transverse colon is going to develop from midgut. From the hindgut, we can see the derivatives like left 1/3 of transverse colon, descending colon, pelvic colon, rectum, and upper part of the anal canal. These parts you should know. By heart it or do whatever you want, but you will get the question that what are the derivatives of foregut. Sometimes maybe for your short answers like 2 marks question, you will get the questions like derivative, name the derivatives of foregut, name the derivatives of midgut, or name the derivatives of hindgut. At that time you need to mention all the derivatives. Okay, any doubts in this? No doubts? Okay. Your gastrointestinal tract is developed from primitive gut. How the formation of primitive gut takes place? Cranio-caudal folding, and another one folding is lateral folding. How the cranio-caudal folding takes place? How the cranio-caudal foldings takes place? What type of sections we have studied in this class? Coronal. Okay. What are the structures you have seen in sagittal sections? Allantois in the sagittal section. Okay. What are the structures we have seen in coronal section? How the coronal section will, how we take the coronal section? Umbilical cord and yolk sac. Where? In the coronal section. Okay. How you have seen the umbilical cord in coronal section? That upper part is called umbilical cord. Okay. Next, the lower part is yolk sac, and what are the other structure we have seen? Cranial, end and ectoderm and endoderm. I am asking about the coronal section. There is no cranial end and caudal end in the coronals. We can see that in sagittal section, and the upper part is called amniotic cavity, not umbilical cord. Okay. Okay, we have seen the yolk sac, amniotic cavity, ectoderm, endoderm, and okay. What are the structure we see in sagittal section? Neural tube and any other structure? Neural crescent on either side of your neural tube. Okay, see, both of us. Okay. How the folding takes place? What is the reason behind the folding? Proliferation of cell. Where the proliferation of cells takes place? In which part? In the amniotic cavity. What happens once the proliferation of cells started in the amniotic cavity? Okay. There will be increase in the size of the amniotic cavity.